Could you accept this ID? No, because the ID may have been tampered with in some way. Anytime an ID is tattered, torn, bent, expired, creased across the photograph and or birth date, it would be wiser to take a closer look and ask for a second piece of identification. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Got some ID there?
Yes.
Your ID's expired, sweetie.
Oh. But I got the real ID though.
I understand that, but it's I got to see a valid ID. Expired ID is not valid. I can't serve you tonight until you get a valid ID.
Only this one time?
I can't. No.
No.
And I understand that. I appreciate it, but I can't. Not tonight.
Okay.
Get your ID replaced. Get back in here. Thanks, ladies. Have a good evening. Acceptable forms of identification. Some establishments in Wisconsin will only accept a Wisconsin driver's license or Wisconsin identification card as valid identification to purchase alcoholic beverages. However, Wisconsin is a state that touts tourism, people relocating and out-of-state college students, etc., who will have identifications from their home state. Refer to your establishment's alcohol policy, as your establishment may only accept specific IDs. Not just any identification card is valid ID. A valid ID must appear to be valid, not expired, no obvious signs of alteration or forgery. Here's what the Wisconsin law says what is an acceptable ID. Definition in this section: official identification card means any of the following: a valid operator's license issued under Chapter 343 that contains the photograph of the holder. An identification card issued under Statute 343.50. An identification card issued under Statute 125.08, 1987 statutes. A valid military identification card issued to a member of the U.S. Armed Forces or forces incorporated as part of the U.S. Armed Forces that contains the person's photograph and date of birth. A valid U.S. passport. You can also accept a passport card. A valid identification card issued by a federally recognized American Indian tribe or band in this state that contains the card holder's photograph, full name, address, and date of birth. No other card than the identification card authorized under this section may be recognized as an official identification card in the state. Any licensee or permittee under this chapter may require a person to present an official identification card, documentary proof of age, an operator's license issued by another jurisdiction, or by any form of identification or proof of age acceptable to the licensee or permittee before providing the alcohol beverages to the person or allowing the person to enter the premises for which the license or permit has been issued. Nothing in this subsection requires a licensee or permittee to accept any form of identification that does not appear to be valid or authentic or appears altered. College IDs are not an acceptable form of ID. Notice, the statute does not state that foreign driver's licenses or ID cards are acceptable. Instead, ask for their passport. Because minors will go to great lengths to acquire alcoholic beverages, you really should up the ante when it comes to accepting and checking ID.